Hello, my name's Lena. I'm from Little Scientists. At Little Scientists, we like to spot STEM opportunities in everyday play and activities. And one brilliant way to start STEM conversations is by reading books. Children's stories often have wonderful sparks that can lead into conversations and discussions where you can start exploring and possibly start an inquiry project. So today I'm going to read for you this book, Tilly. It was shortlisted for the Book of the Year by the Children's Book Council of Australia. After I read, I'm going to go through the book again with you to show you what kind of sparks might come up. Many years ago, there lived a little girl called Tilly. In Tilly's house, there were lots of places to hide. Up high, down low, in dark corners and spots where no one would find you. Tilly's brothers and sister ran everywhere, covering the whole house with their things. Sometimes there was no room for Tilly. Tilly's bedroom was at the top of the house, and up in her room, Tilly discovered a hiding place all of her own. Into the secret step she put her special book of lists, her best drawing of a bird, a smooth stone she found by the sea, a silver ball with a tiny bell inside, stripy sweets, a letter she had never delivered, and 4 little woolen dolls. Tilly liked to take these treasures out of the step one by one. She wrote in her book and decorated each list. She wore the silver ball around her neck. It rolled cool against her skin, and the tiny bell rang as she moved, playing a soft, tinkling tune just for her. Sometimes Tilly played with her precious things. Sometimes she arranged them on her bed. And sometimes she just liked to know they were there. No one else knew about the secret step. People walked on it. Her brothers and sister even sat on it. But they didn't know that Tilly had the best hiding place of all. After the summer holidays, Mum and Dad were painting the house. Everyone was busy. Sticky, glistening stripes rolled over the walls, making them smooth and new again. Each room changed colour. Every colour had a name. Whisper white, mandarin, sea elephant, corn silk, deep bamboo, holiday red. Then one afternoon, when they all came home, there was a new carpet. It was the colour of sand on a sunny day. Tilly ran along the soft, springy hallway to the stairs. But something was wrong. Her hiding place. Tilly tried to lift up the carpet that covered the step, but it was so strong and thick underneath that sandy softness. No matter what Tilly did, she couldn't reach them. Her treasures were trapped. Now there were no dolls, no special book to write in, no tiny bell to tie around her neck and listen out for as she moved. Tilly longed to feel the smooth stone, read her precious letter, whisper to the wooden dolls, so warm and alive in her hands. "What's wrong with Tilly?" her brother asked at dinner time. No one had ever known about Tilly's treasures, and now she couldn't find the words to tell them. That night in bed, Tilly imagined her treasures, holding each one in her mind. She tried to remember everything about them. How could she rescue them? Tilly opened the window. The last drops of silvery summer fell into the palm of her hand. The air was still warm outside. It was very dark between the stars. Sometimes Tilly felt so small in the world. She closed her eyes. The next morning, Tilly went and sat under the tree that grew up to her window. Morning became afternoon. Leaves drifted down. "I miss you," she whispered. Days passed, then weeks. Tilly gathered other special things and found a new place for them. Her treasures stayed where they were, so close, silent, still, and safe in the dark. Tilly always remembered the treasures in the secret step, and sometimes up in the quiet of her room, she thought she heard the tiny bell ringing out just for her. Perhaps Tilly's treasures are still there today. The end. So that's Tilly by Jane Godwin and Anna Walker. So, did you spot STEM discoveries and sparks in there? I did. Let me walk you through some of the ones I found. So at the beginning, Tilly's got a hiding place. There's lots of places to hide in the house, but she's a bit overwhelmed by her brothers and sisters. Now, in this first picture, the brothers and sisters are running around. They've got paper planes. We could talk to them and think about how do we make paper planes, how far they fly, so there's a bit of engineering in there. And then Tilly finds her secret step and she places things in them. Her list of things that she puts in them is interesting. She's got a book of lists, the best drawing of a bird. I wonder how you draw a bird. What does a bird look like? Are there different kinds of birds? A smooth stone she found by the sea. Are all stones smooth? I wonder if we could find some stones and line them up in a row from most smooth to most rough. A silver ball with a tiny bell inside. Now that all reminds me of when somebody has a special piece of jewellery. You could ask the children, have you ever heard somebody that has a special piece of jewellery that jingles and you know exactly who's coming up? My cat, for example, has a little bell on her collar and I always know when she's coming. I wonder why cats might have a bell that makes a sound. So then Tilly's got her secret hiding place and she's put her things in and her brothers and sister don't even know about it. You could talk about having a hiding place for special things, maybe even drawing a map to see if somebody could find your hiding place. On our website, littlescientist.org.au, you can find under the resources tab another video talking about an activity for drawing maps and using maps as a STEM activity. It's a great mathematical activity. Then the story goes into talking about painting, and I love this one because children love mixing colour paints. What if you ask the children, what colour is sea elephant? What colours would you mix to create deep bamboo or holiday red? Maybe they could label their own colour mixings. Then when there's new carpet, Tilly runs through soft, springy hallway to the stairs. You could talk about different textures. And when something goes wrong and the carpet buries the treasures, now we've got a spot to talk about buried treasure, but also maybe time capsules. The things that Tilly put in there were special to her at the time. Perhaps the children would like to create a time capsule of their own. What items would they put in there? Now Tilly's really sad. You can have a look at Tilly's body and her facial expressions, and her brother recognises that something's wrong and says, what's wrong with Tilly? So we could start talking about the human body and emotions and what our bodies and faces look like when we're sad or happy or something else. Then at night time, Tilly tries to imagine her treasures. We could start talking about memory and playing memory games. She tries to think about how she could rescue them. Maybe you could engage the children into a discussion about how they could rescue items that were stuck under the carpet in a staircase. And then the story starts to talk about the summer and how the summer feels. And I think this is really interesting because seasons do feel different. And this page really describes to me it's humid and warm, but does it always feel humid and warm? What does it feel like in winter? You could potentially track over a number of days and seasons what it feels like and ask the children to describe what it feels like. This is also a lovely page to talk about, starting to talk about colours in the dark, because are all colours the same when it's dark? The leaves on the trees here, as you see, are quite dark and grey. And then when it's bright and daytime, there's lots of lovely greens. And of course, they're not all the same green. Maybe you could go and find different leaves and see how many different colours of green you could find. And the leaves drift down. The leaves change colour. Tilly collects some leaves as part of her new special collection. Maybe you and the children could collect different leaves for a special collection. See how many autumn colours there could be. And also, do all trees change colour and drop their leaves? Which ones do, which ones don't? The blossoms come out and Tilly's found a new place for her treasures in a birdhouse. What is a birdhouse? Do you think the birds would mind the treasures being there? How do we make a birdhouse? Then, when the treasures stay there buried in the dark, Tilly remembers them and she thinks she heard a tiny bell, but perhaps the treasures are still there today. And again, you could talk about the time capsule. Now, if this book and Tilly was from 100 years ago, what items do we think might be in that special treasure box then? What if the box was made 100 years from now? What might be in then? So you can start to talk about design and technologies, what was important in everyday life in the past, what we might imagine it to be in the future. Now for me, a lot of the themes there are about change and discovery, but there could be many other things that come out for you. Why don't you read the book with your children and see what inspires them, see what gets them thinking. And you could ask a couple of provocations along the way. Depending on what topics you're already exploring in your class, you could potentially choose something. For example, if you're already starting to talk about the human body or emotions, you might ask questions around that part of the book. Or perhaps you're learning about acoustics and different sounds. Then you might focus on the bell and other parts of that story around acoustics. So, happy reading. It's a wonderful book. See what comes up with you, and please let us know what your children think. Come back to social media and send us a message. We'd love to hear from you.